throw something at you.
Good afternoon and welcome. This afternoon we have our Facebook Live for March. And I, as you know, am Mayor Travis Stovall, and this is Sarah Cagann. She's in charge of our Communications Department. She's joining myself today as we have this Facebook Live session to discuss all the great things that are going on in Gresham, and then to discuss some of the things that are going on globally. And particularly and specifically, right now, as many of you know, as all of you know, Ukraine is facing an unprecedented, unprovoked attack from Russia. And this war is actually creating some atrocities all across that country of Ukraine. And this past week, as you know, we delivered a statement regarding the Ukraine and why it is so important that they have our support. They are really looking to move towards a democracy. And we support that democracy and the ability and opportunity for folks within the country to decide their direction on where they want to go. And so it is critical that we actually provide our support. And there are various ways that folks can get involved. Of course, there are a number of different types of charities that are providing support for the folks of the Ukraine, specifically from a humanitarian effort. As we see people hurt and in need all across the world globally, we certainly want to be able to provide that assistance. And so that is one key way. I know the American Red Cross and other global charities are doing whatever they can. And so I would implore any of us to actually make those contributions to those organizations and keep the folks of Ukraine in your thoughts. Greatly appreciate that. Because again, we want to stand together with the folks of Ukraine, and also, as many of you know, we've got a number of our Ukrainian brothers and sisters that live right here in our communities. And if you know any of them, please provide the support, the moral support. Many of them have family and friends still in the country, exiting the country, and those things tend to be personal and tend to be challenging. For those individuals who are here and knowing that some of their relatives and friends are certainly in positions of being in harm's way. So again, keep many of those folks, all of those folks in your thoughts as they are struggling with this war in the Ukraine. And this happens to be March, and March is Women's History Month. Last month it was Black History Month. This is Women's History Month. And Sarah, any thoughts? This is our opportunity to really celebrate women and their impact on history.
Absolutely, I have lots of thoughts on Women's History Month as a female myself. But I guess my main thought that I wanted to chat about with you is most organizations, we do our standard social media post, we have a statement, we share all the graphics and images. And that's all well and good, but at the end of the day, all we really want is equity. So as Mayor of Gresham, what are your thoughts on what's Gresham doing to narrow that gap and bring gender equity?
Absolutely. I think, in some of the key things that we have to do as a city, as an agency, as an employer, it starts there. Mm-hmm. And it starts by making sure that our workforce reflects the community. 50% of the population are women. And if our employment doesn't reflect something like that or close to it, then essentially we're not doing our fair part when it comes to equity. And so not just hiring, but also ensuring that training, the education, the mentoring, all of those things that provide for upward mobility throughout the organization is critical. And so that really says not just making sure our workforce is something that reflects our community, but our leadership. Mm-hmm. Our leadership teams, and ensuring that we're doing the right things, that we're encouraging them, we're supporting women and their contribution. Because clearly, when we think about the contribution that women have made in history and they're continuing to make today, it is something that we have to continue to support. Furthermore, when there's a saying that I can't be what I cannot see. Mm-hmm. And so now we've got incredible leaders here at the City of Gresham. Nina Vetter is our city manager. And when she goes out and she talks to, high school students and grade school students, and they hear that she's the city manager, effectively the CEO of the City of Gresham, they can be encouraged by that aspect. They can be encouraged that someone in leadership here in the city is a woman, and they can again, I cannot be what I cannot see, and now that they can see it, now they can witness that, it's something that I believe is going to be very encouraging for young women who are growing up and looking at now all the opportunities that lay before them. And so those types of things are critical as we move towards a more equitable workforce and opportunity here in the city.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So I'm hoping you're okay with this, but we wanted to switch things up a little bit, and I have my handy dandy list of questions here that we received from you all and over the past month since our last one. So we want to take some time and answer those, but as always, if you have questions while we're chatting here with the mayor, you can just drop those in the chat, and Robin, who's behind the camera, will flag us down and let us know that we've got a question, and we can add that to the mix.
And we did just get one.
Fantastic.
From Catherine.
All right, Catherine, what's up?
She asked, can you discuss what is being done regarding rising crime in Gresham?
I'm going to let you take that one.
Excellent. Catherine, thank you for joining us this afternoon. So what we've been doing in regards to rising crime in Gresham has been actually quite extensive. We just launched the Safe Gresham initiative, and as many of you know, and if you attended that meeting, it has a whole course and a whole menu of things that we are implementing. It doesn't just rest only on our incredible police department, because that is a solution, that is part of the solution, but it really has to be multifaceted. So we're supporting our police. What are the things we're doing there? We've actually extended the police, fire, and parks fee an additional year so that we can put together the comprehensive financial package. That's number one. So the police, fire, and parks fee, it's been extended and increased for this certain amount of time. That's about $3.8 million additional dollars over 2019 funding mechanisms. We have also greenlighted roughly about $5 million from our American Rescue Plan Act funds towards our police and fire. So those are additional funds that actually haven't been there previously that are now available to our police and fire to ensure that we're working with our agencies to deliver these additional services. And so this is what we're doing specifically just on the police side of things. I'll touch on a few other key areas here in just a moment. And so we funded that additional millions of dollars. So that's, if you're doing the calculation, that's about additional $9 million going to police and fire specifically over 2019. That is a substantial amount of money. Police already counts for about 50 to 55% of our general fund. So a pretty substantial amount of our general fund goes to police to ensure that we can keep our city safe. We've also hired 3 additional civilian positions to support our police. One of those is a police and fire recruiter, so a public safety recruiter, to allow us to get more folks onto our team. And just the other day, we actually swore in 2 brand new officers that are now going to the police academy. We've actually got 31 applications for open positions within our department. So really working towards getting that portion of it taken care of. But as you've heard me say before, we're at 127 sworn officers. Right now, we're closer to about 107 as far as the number of sworn officers that we have. There's been some attrition. And again, for that, we're still a little bit challenged at 127. That number needs to be higher, but historically, as you know, our financial constraints have not allowed us to go any higher than the 127 based on budget and where we need to be from a long-term financial sustainable plan. Now, that's the police side. Most funding Gresham Police have ever had in history. What's the next one? Well, we can't really just work on kind of the byproduct of crime. We have to back that up. Intervention and prevention. So, intervention. We know that there are things that we can now start doing with the additional funding that we've been able to allocate to intervene in situations where crime has occurred, where violent crime has occurred. If we're not intervening and interrupting and disrupting that crime early into the process, it can get downstream and get worse and worse. So we now are, as you heard me say, our Safe Gresham initiative, it's going to have all of these components in place. So we're greenlighting prevention and intervention effects. So that intervention is the piece that we're talking about right now. And we're using some community-based organizations in regards to youth violence prevention. ensuring that things don't escalate once something happens. And so that's that intervention part. Now, we need to back it all the way up to prevention. Prevention is the medium to long-term solution. What are things that we're doing to engage and provide opportunities for folks all across the spectrum? And those are the types of things that are the long-term solutions to the crime issue that we're seeing right now. And some of that is youth engagement and prevention. And it's also working with folks that potentially have been involved in crimes to also cease and desist additional escalations of the things that they may be interested in doing within our community. And furthermore, we all, there's this see something, say something concept that we talk about, and that's true in our communities. Neighborhood watches, the opportunity and ability to, if you see something, please let us know. We've got various ways to report things. We can do it online. We can do it by phone. Emergency is 911, but we've also got additional numbers to allow for folks to call non-emergency if there are situations that are not emergent. But we do need to have those tracked so that we can absolutely put things together to ensure that we're looking at what criminals are doing and getting ahead of this. But we've got a lot of resources that we're focusing on that. That's a long answer to a short question. But I just want to make sure that folks know that we're dedicated to public safety. But also, public safety has different components to it. I mean,
Right.
Public safety for one person is about how safe they feel, just personally and physically. But there's also safety in ensure that you're housed. Also, safety ensuring that you have access to various basic resources, clean water, all of those things. So those are the things also that I think other folks are thinking about. How safe are they when they're accessing educational opportunities and things like that? So those are the types of things that also lead to this conversation of public safety. Anything else you're hearing out in the community, Sarah?
I think what's interesting of what you touched on is that traditionally these areas have operated in silos. You've had prevention work going on, you've had the police efforts going on, but Safe Gresham is really this initiative that brings all of those silos together, so they're all working together. So you've
Absolutely.
got youth violence prevention, and you've got working with the community-based organizations to be able to bring in that intervention and wraparound services in addition, and they're all happening simultaneously.
I think you nailed it, and that's the Safe Gresham initiative. And again, we're just getting this implemented. I do want to say that part of what we're seeing in this rise in crime is happening all across the country. We're not unique. I was recently at a mayor's meeting, and this is the rhetoric that is going on in every meeting I have: the rise in crime. That's no excuse. I mean, we have the ability and opportunity to step up as a community and start to send this the other direction. Part of that is going to be the pandemic. The pandemic has had a negative impact on crime, just because impacting and contacting certain folks during the pandemic was not available to us because of the potential transmission of the COVID virus.
Well,
so
it
now
took
that
away
we're
those opportunities
exactly
for engagement.
It took away those opportunities because we wanted to make sure that we weren't transmitting the COVID-19 virus. And so now that things are opening back up, masks go away as of March 12th. And I am smiling under my mask because I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward. Thankful that we've made it through, as much as we have. Sad to see so many people have lost their lives as a byproduct of this microscopic foe that we've been fighting for 2 years now. I mean, who knew that 2 years almost to the day we were going to be fighting this for 2 years and going through the machinations of the ins and outs of COVID-19 for this long. I don't think anybody imagined. And so we're thankful to be coming out of the other end, but certainly saddened by the sheer size of the loss of life over the last 2 years.
Absolutely. Not to diminish that, but I know we have several other questions that we want to get to in our time together. In addition to Women's History Month, March is also Groundwater Awareness Month.
Yes. Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is.
Talk to me about groundwater. What is groundwater and why do we care?
So groundwater. So I won't try to make this a science course, but I will kind of do a compare and
Please do. I'm
contrast.
fascinated.
Bull Run watershed. Everybody, well, most people have heard of Bull Run. It's a large reservoir that's in a hyper secret place up in the hills outside of Gresham, not too far from Mount Hood. If you fly over in a plane, you can actually see it, but it's highly protected. So we've got the Bull Run watershed. That's where the majority of water into the city of Portland comes from, is from that watershed. It's a huge reservoir that feeds us with water, and actually, incredibly enough, it's untreated. It's so pure, so clean that most cities have to treat their water. We don't have to. Actually, the city of Portland doesn't have to treat the water coming from the Bull Run watershed. So it's an incredibly pure source of clean drinking water. And so with that, we actually, as the city of Gresham, we buy a fair portion of our water from the city of Portland through the Bull Run watershed.
Okay.
Now, recently, we actually started working with Rockwood PDD, to do the Cascadia Groundwater Alliance, where we work together to actually start pulling our water, from the ground. Which, if you go down certain distances below the ground, there's actually an aquifer of water. And so we actually have been drilling wells so that we can provide our own water, thus decreasing the cost to our community members of accessing that incredible resource that we call water. So we've been working hard at actually drilling those wells, removing our dependence upon that water source from the city of Portland, so that we can have a better opportunity to regulate any price increases as we go forward upon our community members, which is beneficial. And so, so groundwater, here in the next couple of years, Gresham will be receiving about 100% of our water from the ground through wells that we have now drilled. And again, it's going to be a very, very big benefit for the city of Gresham residents and community members to be able to have rates that are going to be lower over the next 10 to 15 years in regards to what we would be paying based on the city of Portland selling us part of their water.
I imagine that also has to have a safety element in it. If there were an earthquake or something else, a natural disaster of some sort, I imagine having access in our own aquifer and those systems in place would add a certain extra layer of safety for Gresham.
It certainly does offer an extra layer of safety and control. The whole water infrastructure, at least what we're putting in now, much of it is going to be resilient during any type of earthquake. But there, as we know, there's still older delivery systems that go to homes and buildings and things like that may suffer. But yes, as a matter of fact, having better control over that resource is going to be something that does deliver a safety issue for the city of Gresham and enhances our safety. So great question, absolutely.
Fantastic. We want to ask the hard-hitting questions here. So what is your favorite book? Hard-hitting questions,
favorite book. Absolutely, my favorite book, hands down, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. People ask me, how did you become mayor? It's because I read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. No, it really, the gist of the book is just be nice, be kind, be genuine, those types of things. And it's usually, you don't think those are types of things that you have to read about, but I would say that it certainly didn't hurt to have read that book actually multiple times and really wanting to embody what it's talking about. Be kind, be genuine, be truthful, those types of things. And those are things I embody. So Napoleon Hill, How to Win Friends and Influence People, favorite book, hands down.
Okay, there you go.
If
if you want to be mayor someday, just go out and read that book.
And furthermore, if we want to go with child's books, which I really enjoyed child's books when I was a child, The Wild Things Are. One of my favorite books ever. Where the Wild Things Are. I've read that book numerous times when I was young Travis.
All right, we have a couple more questions from Mary. I'm going to take Mary's second question first, and that is, do you know of any plans for the development of the KMart property, and who owns that land?
Great. This is
I don't know that
Mary,
one.
Thank you for the question. This Facebook Live session is always good. Last time we had the question on fire and fire preparation and wildfire preparation.
Yes.
Great question. I come to find out
it was on our toes.
It was a friend of mine, Anne, that actually gave us the question. So she referenced that, hey, I gave that question. So great question. Mary, great question here. The answer is yes. There are plans for the Kmart property. It's owned by an outfit back east and we are in actually close conversations with them. We've listened to some of their ideas. We absolutely enjoy the ideas that they have. And so we're working in close concert with those individuals, with the owners of that site. And I would imagine that here over the next 12, 18 months, you'll hear more about what's going to go on there. But really, really cool thoughts and ideas of the owner of that site and what they potentially want to do as they move forward. So great question, Mary. Thank you for the question.
All right, and Mary's second question has to do with public safety, and again, she
Okay.
wants to know, given our staffing shortages in the police department, what are we doing to recruit and retain police officers?
Excellent question. Again, we touched on it a little bit earlier. One of the key things that we're doing to recruit them is we ultimately hired a public safety recruiter so that we can assist and be very proactive in getting the right people on our team. As I referenced earlier, we just had a swearing in of 2 brand new officers just last week, and we had 31 applicants, which has not been the case, in the last couple of years to have that many. And I'm assuming we're going to have more than that, and that's even before we get the recruiter on board to be proactive in getting more people on our team. So that's one. What we're doing to retain, furthermore, on the recruitment side, we're actually matching some of the incentives that other police departments are doing for laterals. So other officers coming from other agencies, that's a big piece of what we could do to accelerate some of that. But here's the issue, everyone. Everybody's doing that. Every police department across the country is doing laterals, and they're giving incentives for those laterals. So we're in there. We're having to compete with a kind of a small finite number of folks who are willing to move police departments, and so but we are absolutely matching and being competitive with that. Along the same lines, on the retention side, we're actually building relationships with our with our police department. Each one of our council has had the opportunity to do a ride along. I just did one last week with our police department, and it's just fascinating. I just want to say, our folks in blue, they just do an incredible job, and my hat's off to every single one of you. Just want to let you know, thank you for your service and everything that you do. And so really it's going above and beyond just the pay concept. It's ensuring and reassuring our folks that we do really genuinely appreciate their service. But along with that, we're also looking at the financial pieces of this to ensure that we've got competitive pay packages across the board to keep our folks on our team. And so we did see some exits, again, over the last 12 to 24 months, but we're starting to see that slow down, and we're starting to go back the other direction, getting our folks back on our team. But as you heard me say earlier, we have about 127 approved sworn officer positions for a city our size, and incident rates that we have, that number needs to be quite a bit higher. But we've got to get the clarity of the financial sustainability plan, which you've heard me say numerous times, before we can execute on the long-term opportunity for our police department and safety.
I think it is exciting, though, that being able to at least be competitive with the other big cities and offering some of those new hire bonus incentives of $6,000, I believe, and the laterals of $12,000, education reimbursements for $5,000. I mean, these were things we weren't able to offer before that I think are at least exciting to be competitive with some of the other local municipalities.
Absolutely. Those are all made available by the American Rescue Plan Act. I mean, without which we affectionately call ARPA. Without ARPA, we wouldn't be able to be competitive like this, and so it's really allowing us, especially on the new hires, and those new hire bonuses, is getting people who may not have considered the position before now saying, you know what, I might want to get in there and see what's available. So we're really seeing some good responses to what we're doing, and folks that are staying. And I had a chance to talk to a couple of folks. Even the person I did the ride along with, he just said, I love my job. I love working in this area. And so those are the types of things we want to hear, but we want to support our folks in blue.
Absolutely. So that means you'll be buying them lunch, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, lunch on me.
Okay, there you go. All right, fantastic. So you touched on the financial sustainability plan, but I want to back it up and talk about Imagine Gresham and how where that's at, and then how it fits in with like our strategic plan and then the financial sustainability piece. How does all that work together?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. So Imagine Gresham strategic plan. and the financial sustainability. So imagine Gresham, if we were to break them down, imagine Gresham is that big picture perspective. It's really our dreams, our aspirations as a city. What do we want to be when we grow up, as we continue to grow up? And so capturing that, some people ask, well, why are we doing that? It's because, we need that North Star. If we only focused on what we're going to do tomorrow, what we're going to do next week, what we're going to do next year, we will tend to have a very frenetic type of experience as a city. So what we want to do is we want to have that proverbial North Star. We want to understand where we're headed as a city. What do we want to develop into? That's Imagine Gresham. We went through the first section, and as you know this, went through the first section of engaging people in the public and getting their thoughts and ideas. Now we're starting to bring all that together and collate it and kind of understand exactly what they all want. So that's what Imagine Gresham is. The next step is a bit more operational. So that now that we have this picture, now that we'll define what we want, how do we get there? And that's the strategic plan. When you get ready to set out on a road trip, you don't do it just by saying, I have no idea where I'm going to go and where I'm going to end up. No, you say, I'm going to go to Disney World. And if you're in Portland, that's a long drive if you're going to drive there. So you say, I'm going to go to Disney World. That's your aspiration. That's your dream. The strategic plan is the actual road plan on how to get there. I'm going to drive a car. I'm going to go this route. I'm going to take I-84 over to I-90, and then so you're going to literally plan your gas stops. All those. Those are all the operational pieces. That's the strategic plan. That's how we understand how we're going to operationalize the big picture and over time. And then lastly, if you're going to go on that trip to Disney World, you got to have money.
I don't know how you're going to pay for it.
Disney World's expensive these days.
Yeah, it is.
So you got to have the money, and so we need to understand what our public want, what our community members want, and then how to operationalize it, give them the perspective of how we're going to get there, and now we've got to fund it. Okay. And as you've heard me say numerous times, we are woefully underfunded as a city of our size to be able to make the investments in our community that we want and need to make to develop into the community that we want to see. It needs to be comprehensive. It needs to include, better streets, better roads, better access to parks and recreation, better, safety, as everybody defines it, be it infrastructure, the traffic and all those things, but also public safety in regards to police and fire. All of those things need to have investment in them right now. And we've woefully underfunded our city historically. Now we need to step up our game and contribute to a better tomorrow. And that's how all three of those fit together. Big picture, the dreams, then how do we do it, and then how do we fund it?
I like the Disneyland analogy.
Yes.
It helps.
Yeah, Disneyland's closer, but we're going to Disney
We're
World
going
all the way to
all
Florida.
the way. That's a North Star.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's going to take all of those things.
You really dreamed big on this one.
Disney World's the dream.
Okay.
The strategic plan is how we're going to get there, how we're going to get across the country, and the sustainability plan is how we're going to pay for it.
Okay.
How we're going to get there, but we've got to have that North Star to allow us as a community to understand and buy into where we're going.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Do we have any more questions from?
We do. Catherine has another question. Do you think Gresham will follow Portland in banning fireworks?
Ooh, interesting.
That's a great question, and
they did last year.
We did last year because of the situation with the potential for wildfires. It was very dry. It was very drought oriented last year. As we know, fireworks have been just a hallmark of the 4th of July, just the hallmark of the celebration of our independence here. And over the years, you've seen various drops in kind of the type of fireworks. Back in the day, we used to fire off bottle rockets and Roman candles and all of those things. And today, technically, I believe in Oregon, you actually can't even do anything that makes a loud bang, in my understanding. So I think some of the things that we actually see are not actually legal in the state of Oregon many times. But the sheer police force required to police all of that would be substantial. And is that a good use our resources. So to that end, I think it's a balance. I think it continues to be a balance of how we address and how we respond to the fireworks question. Again, we do want to, in a way, recognize that has been connected with Americana and our ability to celebrate such an important independence to our country. But then there's also the pieces of that impact other folks and animals. And then lastly, a lot of nonprofits. A lot of nonprofits actually have these fireworks stands and fund much of their nonprofit activities through this. So it's a whole consortium of things that we have to think about. So great question.
Mayor, do you Wordle?
I don't Wordle.
I don't either,
Wordle.
but I know so many people do
Yeah,
Wordle.
I know a lot of
I'm
people
just
who Wordle.
curious.
I don't Wordle. I actually, my favorite thing to do in my spare time, if
Yeah.
I've got like 3 minutes, is I love
3 minutes.
crossword. That's about all the extra time I have.
Okay.
It's crossword puzzles. There's
Okay.
this one site. It's like free crossword puzzles,
Yeah.
and it's just I play that maybe 3 or 4 times a day, and it just it just enhances my vocabulary. There's a word oleo. That was a brand new word that I've never heard of before. It's a
know
butter
that one.
substitute.
What is it?
Oleo.
Oleo.
Oleo. I'd never heard of it before. My friend,
I'm
she said
Googling this.
oleo, yeah, and she got it. And she's like, I was like, I've never heard of that before.
Interesting.
And there's actually a number of other words that I've learned over time playing crosswords. So I don't
Okay.
Wordle, but I do play crosswords.
Fantastic. Are there any lingering questions out in the...
No, I think we're up to date.
All right, fantastic. Any last lingering thoughts you want to share for the good of the order?
Well, as always, I'd just like to thank everybody for dropping in on this Facebook Live. I know folks will even watch this and some of the recordings. Just thank you for your time and attention. Please, please, please don't hesitate to send us questions for the next one. We do this once a month. What is it? The second Tuesday of the month?
Yep.
Second Tuesday of the month at 3 o'clock. Please drop in your questions. We love answering them. And as you saw today, at some point, it probably will get a little bit more with me answering questions and someone else asking me the questions. So Please give us your questions, your thoughts. We appreciate it. Sarah?
Thank you.